Hey, thanks for tuning in to Towerhand Happy Hour, episode 8. I'm Chad,
I'm Boone.
and today we are going to get it started, Boone, with that email we spoke about. We received an
Yeah.
email, and here it is. The gentleman asked, I believe gentleman asked, I was hired by a company and went to get a harness. They had no harnesses that were my size, so I used my personal harness that I had with the understanding that they were going to order me a harness. It's been months and I'm still using my personal gear. Employer says as long as inspected, it's okay. Is this legal? So with that, I obviously am not smart enough to answer that question. I turn to Boone. Boone, what's your thoughts?
That's kind of like a double-edged sword with me. I say no, 100%, because in the 1910 standard, so it's actually, I just pulled it up here, 1910.132, employee-owned equipment. It states where employees provide their own protective equipment, their employer shall be responsible to assure its adequacy, including proper maintenance and sanitation of such equipment. But that's the 1910 standard. So unless you're doing, no construction, so just like pretty much tower mapping or taking photos, no construction is going on, then it's I don't like the standard. I don't like it. So you pull over here in the 1926, the construction standard for OSHA, employers shall provide and install all fall protection systems or provide all gear to an employee. They're required to provide all PPE for you for fall protection. And that's in the 1926, 500 to 503. So it breaks it all down for you, with the positioning lanyards, snap hooks, all that stuff. Employers are required to provide it for you. So I disagree. I think that employers should be getting that employee some gear, quickly, because that's a can of worms, and that's a liability I don't want, because I don't know, that employee's past, use of that gear. I don't know if he filmed it once, or it's a whole can of worms that I don't want him to go down, right now. So, yeah.
All right. So now I feel like I need to.
Yeah,
because,
let's do it.
So if we're talking PPE, I mean, what's classified as PPE? I mean, is that saying the employer is going to be buying work boots and gloves for this guy?
So work boots are not required by the employer to be provided unless it's a specialty job. So my last company I owned, we did a site on a couple mines in Nebraska. The one time we did it, they didn't require it, but the next time we went out there, they required metatarsal boots. So since that's outside the realm that my guys are supposed to have, I actually had to buy those boots for them. So like, chemical boots, or some type of specialty boot that it's outside their normal job, you should be buying that for them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gloves, safety glasses, hard hats, any type of PPE. Yeah, you got to provide it.
That's good information. Safety glasses?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's good information. So we were talking earlier, and I thought it was a great topic that we had brought up audits. You do a lot of audits, and I do a lot of audits. I don't think that I'm as extensive as you, because my knowledge isn't as far as the general industry, the safety side of it. I'm not as far up on the what fours as you are. So with audits, I mean, take us through some of these audits. I mean, how long do they take? What
that all varies, like an audit could be an hour long, or it could be the whole day. It all depends
on the job.
Yeah, the job, and how much stuff you find on the site. And if you have a crew that's to the T and has their ducks in a row, you'll be on there, in and out quick.
What's the first thing you look for when you get on site?
Signage.
What's the second thing you look for?
So I'm going to step back though on site signage though. So we see all these guys now that have sight sentences hang them up on the fence, on the compound fence, you know?
Yep.
So technically, you are supposed to have your work, so your fall zone covered. That's your work area too, as well, you know? So you need to put a sign out there on the road or on before you on the access road, you know? Just put a little sign saying, you know, you're now entering the construction zone. This and this is required, you know, checking at the trailer, job trailer.
Okay.
That's adequate. That's adequate. And then you can have your signage on the fence, you know, all day long.
That's
But
good.
if
That's
I
good
can get,
information.
if I can get into your work zone, your fall zone or your work zone, you know, technically I'm an unauthorized person.
Right.
And we see it
Right.
all the time. We see it all the time with the farmers coming in there. You know, they want to sit there with the guy, the foreman's on the capstan, you know, hauling something up, and the farmer's sitting there shooting the shit with him the whole time. You know, it's great. It gets, you
Yeah.
know, it's stupid. But after, like, you know, site signage, hard hats. Make sure everyone has their hard hat on. Do you got heavy equipment on site? Or
No,
is there high vis?
I would imagine you're inspecting the JHA immediately, though. Is that correct?
Well, I'm still pulling up to the site.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I'm still pulling up to the site. I haven't got out of the truck yet. You know, I'm looking for high vis if there's cranes or heavy equipment on site. You know, bobcats, skid loaders, you know, excavators, whatever, etc. So high vis, if that's operational, high vis has to be on. Hard hats, obviously, I said that. And before I even get out of the truck, if the captions on the truck, is the wheels chalked, you know, I can see that from my truck. And of
Keys
course,
out of the ignition.
well, I can't see that from my truck, but
Oh,
yeah,
right. But I mean, when you inspect
yeah.
later on.
But once I get in my truck, you know, first thing I'm looking for is how far I can get on that site before someone stops me.
Oh, yeah.
Because half the time they don't know who I am. Some crews know who I am just because I do a lot of work with them. So we have a big, you know, we have a friendship, you know, with everybody else. But a lot of these sub crews, or, you know, I do a lot of third party for other carriers and stuff too. I've walked right into the middle of their, you know, compound, right into the shelter. I could just sit there and destroy everything, and
Right.
no one's ever came up to me. So, you know, it's a big pet peeve of mine. Granted, you know, a lot of these crews know me. I want people to stop people. Like, I want whoever's on the ground, stop them. Hey, can I help you with something? What can I help you with? Why are you here? You know, find out what they're doing there.
Right.
And then once they're there, you notify them, hey, we have guys in the tower, so we need to go over to JHA with you. Here's our rescue plan. Go through the full JHA verbally with the unknown person once you verify who they are and what their business is there. But yeah, I hate that all the time. I get crew leaders or random crews all the time just hang with the JHA. I say, can I see your JHA? Yep, here you go. And they say it to me. And not even knowing that they need to go through it with everybody on site. Because maybe I don't know about a hazard you identified earlier in that day.
Well,
You know, I just showed up.
Right.
You know,
No, that's good. That's good. So, crew fails audit or fails an item on the audit. What's what two parts here, I guess. What's the most failures you see on a site? I mean, what do you hit the most? I think this is important because there's a lot of crews out there, and I would like to know, you know.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff I'm seeing is you know, fairly simple. Some of it's company specific stuff, like this is what they want. So I'm a little bit more in depth with their audits. Some of them are just, you know, the plain Jane, you know, the Nate Win audit, you know. So, but a lot of the failures I see is, you know, obviously the site signage not being posted outside the work zone or the fall zone. Wheels not being chalked when they have caption on. Keys in the ignition still, or keys, you know, easily accessible. Man, I could go on for days.
Sure.
I could just, I'm gonna just rain off a list here. No rope logs, no rope tag or tag logs for the ropes. No rope logs, no logs in the caps and for inspections. Sling inspections not being done, or they don't exist, period. The rescue plane, if heavy equipment's on site, especially a crane, they say my primary rescue is using the crane, but the crane operative has no idea that he's the primary. So I'm like, well, if he goes out and takes lunch quick and all of a sudden something happens,
He's no longer that.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
RF monitors, I hate that. It's my biggest pet peeve. RF monitors. Why can't you hook off a beaner on on the tower where you're working, turn the RF monitor on and go to work? But you have your cigarettes to chew, your 3 Red Bulls and your
Yeah,
Gatorade.
they're needed. They're needed.
Yeah.
There's just too much. No, I couldn't agree more with you. I just hit a crew last week over it, and I don't understand. I even told them to make sure they had one.
You know what I like to see though too? I'm gonna go on a little rant here quick. Circuit the breakers for all these
GFCI.
upgrades. Yeah, all these breakers they're pulling the the breaker out, the panel, but there's no lockout tagout information on that panel, and they leave the breakers right there on top, or the new ones are right there on top. So who knows? I can just walk in there, plug that breaker back in, flip it on, and electrocute
Right.
everybody.
Right. No, I'm with you there. You've heard me kind of go off on that too in the
Yeah.
past. But I've been just as guilty as the rest of them too.
Oh, we all are.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're seeing some deficiencies. Most of them aren't bad, but like me, I'll have several on some sites. I try not to shut a crew down, but sometimes you can't help it. Especially now that I've got to submit evidence, and if I can't get evidence of a rope log, harness log, well, they're gonna have to come up with something. Otherwise, they're not working. That's not any good. I don't. Last thing I want to do is revise the schedule. But also last thing I want to do is have an injury or fatality on my site and have that brought to me. Where you were there, we can see you there. You were there on your GPS. Why wouldn't you inspect that? I don't want that question asked to me, because I'm going to be just as much as I'll be in as much trouble as the company owner.
Yeah.
Or the competent guy on site, because in all reality, once I'm on site, I become one of those competent people on site,
or qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're listed as in your company's handbook as a qualified person,
Absolutely.
you take over everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you ever find any serious violations?
No, because I've a lot of the companies I work with right now, I've pounded. I usually teach their OSHA 10 or OSHA 30 classes, so I've pounded the stuff into them pretty good. A lot of the stuff's kind of minor. Some of it you could see as a serious, but it's a quick fix. I've never shut down anybody yet, but if I have to, I will. I've never caught anybody free climbing or anything like that. I've had one instance when I had a drone up there and I saw a guy, actually he was free climbing. He unhooked and then rehooked, but he was free climbing for a second there. And I pretty much flew the drone up there and saw everything and told him to get down, and we fired the crew right then and there. But I never worked that crew before ever in my life. So that was my first experience with those guys. So
Right.
they got the, I'm all about education, something simple. We had a crew that had they were using a folding ladder, and they were done using it, and they put it outside the shelter and they leaned it up against the shelter just to, get it out of the way. And I said, well, technically that could be a huge fine. That's improper use of a ladder. Like, what do you mean we're not using it? I'm like, well, if I have a picture of it, It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So I'm
Right.
take a picture of that. I can prove right now that you had that ladder leaned up. I don't know if you guys use that in the proper way or not. It's my picture versus your, what you say.
And that's not
I'm gonna
uncommon either.
I'm gonna win every
That's
time.
that's not uncommon either. It's not uncommon to have a tech come by and just assume and then call their management, and then
Yeah.
next thing you know, your boss is calling you. I've been thrown under the bus for multiple things, and I'm not saying I was always innocent every time,
Mhm.
but you know, the ones that I was guilty on, I could accept that, but the ones that I was not, I was pretty rude,
Yeah.
uh yeah,
I
no
remember
kidding.
I remember at a tech one time, I was hanging below a boom, working on bottom fed antenna, and I accidentally dropped a snap in. And he's like, "Well, luckily that didn't hit anything because I would have to write you up, make a report on it." And I'm like, "What? That's a snap in. Like it flew like 50 yards out that way into the trees. I'm sorry it happened, but stuff happens. We drop things sometimes." And he's like, "Well, you drop anything on our sites, we have to report it and log it." And I'm like, "Wow."
We call it
Obviously
a near
something.
miss.
Yeah, but obviously something crazy happened with them to have a snap in, constitute a near miss incident. Jesus.
Yeah, I I don't know. Some of the stuff I think they've taken really, really far. I was kind of going back through our discussion the other night over audits, serious, everything to climber fatalities. I was kind of doing some numbers because I was thinking about bringing something like that on for our podcast.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the industry's done pretty well. We never used to have audits, and I think the industry's doing pretty well because if it's true that we have 5 times, 10 times, whatever it is, the companies we had 15 years ago, we've done well. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously your chances go up with fatalities. We know one is too many, but don't get me wrong, but I think we've done pretty well, and there's a lot of guys out there that can pat themselves on the back, and not to sway too far off, but we just got back from NEIA and the Nebraska Iowa Wireless Association, and it was nice to talk to those guys at the event last night, and one of the first things out of their mouths was not jobs, it was not discussing, it was safety.
Yeah.
And they were focused on safety. And I heard people approach you and talk to you about safety. And that's, that really made me smile because um, it's I don't want to call it overlooked part of our industry, but it's a
It
thorn in
doesn't
your
make any
side.
money. It doesn't make
It's,
any
it,
money.
it's a financial pain in your ass
Yep.
is what it
Yep. It doesn't
is.
make any money.
And
You know.
but it's nice to hear that the first thing they had to say dealt with safety. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I've always been adamant about third party inspections for safety on your crews, because your typical in-house safety guy or safety director
Is not
or
going to want
whoever's
to shut
doing
them
it,
down.
dude, yeah, exactly. He's a biased person.
And your friends,
Yep. You don't want to ruffle any feathers because he's a safety guy already.
you
So
might owe them $100,
man,
whatever.
whatever. But it's like when you have a third party entity come out there and actually give an honest opinion on things, that changes a company. I remember the first time I did. I remember first time I did a third party inspection on a company. They had no idea the violations. They actually found the OSHA violations they were in violation of, and got the dollar amount for them. And they were shocked by that, and they opened their eyes. Yeah.
But the other part about third party is, like you said, they don't know you. And that goes back to the part about, you walking on site. If they know the guy, they know his truck, they know his car or her car. I shouldn't be doing that. His or her car, truck. They know they phoned him this morning. They know he or she's in the area. So yeah, I do like that. I don't see a lot of companies wanting to shut their own crews down. So I am, until I see something different, I am 100% for that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I don't want to shut anybody down. I'm all about education. Let's fix what we can right now, right here now.
No, I understand,
let's
but you don't always have guys like you either.
yeah, but like it's like simple things like, okay, you have a crane on site, you're using your rigging for the crane to lift the booms or whatever else, but you have no rigging inspection forms, like sling inspection forms. Okay, here's a simple fix on your rigging plan or on your JHA. Write whoever the competent person is going to inspect the slings, write the serial number of the sling, what it is, what length it is, what it can pick, how you're going to use it, and say, I inspected the sling on this date,
Right.
and it's good to go. It's simple. It's documentation is everything in this industry. It's not what you, like I said, I say it all the time. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And if you don't document it, it didn't happen.
No, I'm with you 100%. So
What
at
you
the end of the day, so you found you found your deficiencies on site with the crew, with whatever. Then what? I mean, how are you putting it together?
So me, I use a lot of the Nate Star Initiative audit
Mhm.
form.
Yeah.
If they're not part of that form, I usually write an email out of all the deficiencies I saw, what I corrected, what needs to be corrected on site. If I had to shut them down, which fortunately I've never had to shut down a crew. But yeah, it's simple things. A lot of it's just laziness, complacency. Why? So JHAs, huge violations. JHAs. So a lot of guys will fill out JHA when they get to the site. Have everything they're going to do for that site, and then they're 4 days in. I show up. Well, they already have 3/4 of it done, but the JHA still says the same thing. Every day a JHA should be filled out because your hazards are going to be, different every day.
Right.
So it's simple things like that. It's the last site we had with a crane on site, the crane operator didn't have his swing radius roped off or tagged out or marked off.
Yeah.
That was an easy fix. It was kind of scary though, but he didn't have his daily inspection done, so I stopped everything and had him get that done. But with cranes on site, always make sure your lift plan or your rigging plan with the crane operator's license number, is the same as the crane operator on site. Because too many times you've seen it and I've seen it too, where this operator had to go to another site, so you got a whole different crane, with a whole different operator, or the same crane, different operator. It's just simple things like dot your T's and cross your I's.
How about now? How about the rigger? Since what, 2013? Or is it 11? Maybe 11, but the rigger has to be certified.
Yeah, I think it was 2011. Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
rigger's
oiler
gotta be
greaser.
certified.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
no,
no, that's but yeah, I mean, I don't. I think they're needed. I do audits myself. Again, I don't like auditing. I don't
So
like
let me ask
audit.
you this. Let me ask you this question then. So you do an audit, and you have major deficiencies or whatever else, and you have to shut down a crew. What's the kickback you get for that?
The kickback.
Do you get like, why'd you shut down my crew?
Well, I mean, without getting in trouble on here, you know, the project manager will he usually put his hands in his head, or his head in his hands, and breathe out, and then obviously the emails are gone, getting sent over to him. This better be fixed by tomorrow. But there you go again. I mean, if you got busy CMs and they got a schedule, well, now the CM has to make a follow-up the next day when the crew's on site. Or the CM's got to stick around, or the safety manager, or whoever's conducting the site observation. So, you know, now it's become even more of a pain in your ass. And
But hold on. So do they like question why you shut them? Obviously, they question why you shut them down. Probably,
absolutely.
most likely. Do they ask like, is this something we can be easily fixed, or is this something that during the Avetta process was overlooked or not focused on, and now it's a problem?
Okay, so a lot of my shutdowns, and I've only had to do this a few times. I had one because the crew cut a radio bracket and they tried to modify it, and they never made it back on site ever. I had another one where no, I'll tell you the best. I had another one that I was not there, but it was on one of my sites. I had another CM close to the area, and luckily he went there. The crew, they had no NTP. They went to one of the large tower companies, and they were dropping material off. Well, you can't even do that without an NTP, but they were.
Yeah.
So since they were dropping material off, they thought it was okay to not even bring one hard hat, and they were wearing sandals and flip-flops and tennis shoes. So the tower leasing company, we'll just say, shows up on site, and he wants to see him there right now. Well, I was about 7 or 8 hours out, so there's no way I was going to make it. One of the other CMs went over there, and you know, the crew wanted to obviously leave, and they told the crew, "You leave now and don't ever plan on coming back."
Yeah.
But it caused a lot of problems. It's still to this day causing problems with what he found.
Yeah. I honestly can't wait till I get to do more of these site audits on these small cells guys, or the DAS system guys doing like the small cell 5G on the roadways, because you know, traffic control plan, or understanding the, you know, uniform, you know, was it National Uniform Traffic Control handbook? Yeah, dude, half these companies I see are just they skate by until they get caught. They're reactive, not proactive, you know. So
right. Well, there's a lot of that out there.
Yeah. I loved it like that at NEIA. He did the instructor for that thing. He actually did bring up a good point. And I always teach this point when I do OSHA 30. We talk about like traffic control devices like that. How the lines, the slot lines coming down on like a barricade or whatever. It's the way they want you to go.
Right.
Yep. So wherever the line goes down, they want you to go that way, you know. And I had a funny story. My old driver's ed instructor from high school, his dad was also a driver's ed instructor when he was in high school. Apparently, he knew that whole like slant line thing.
I knew what it was.
And apparently, the signs were backwards, so it was telling him to go into the construction zone, not merge to the left.
Right.
So he's like, "Fuck it." He's like, "Fuck it." He hauled ass and smoked the back of some type of heavy equipment, wrecked his car. So he sued the company, got a brand new car, you know, so much money in punitive damages, and like lost work, you know, wages and stuff like that. But like, dude, that's amazing. That's why you see all these companies now, they use third-party traffic control companies to set their barricades up. Yeah, which is smart.
I got a buddy I used to work with in the tower industry that now does that. It's good money,
dude. It's shocking how good of money that is.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying another contractor. You're removing the liability yourself. I mean, I get it. But no,
like people don't understand. Like it varies from like speed limits. You know, once you hit over 45 miles an hour, that's a whole another, you know, stretch of lane you got to mark out. you gotta go farther down the road, or you gotta add something, or maybe a flagger or whatever it is. It's I think a lot of these companies, in the next year, we're gonna have a come to Jesus moment when people start cracking down on the traffic control devices stuff.
Sure. No, I couldn't agree more. So I think we've come to agreement that, or to an agreement that audits aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, they're not. They're going to probably get more intense. A lot of these companies are getting involved with the WIN program, which I think is a great program. It could be maybe amplified a little bit more, which hopefully it does get amplified a little bit more.
I don't know much about that. I mean, it'd be nice to have Pete, come on here and talk about it, but I don't know enough about that.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to get Pete on here. I don't want to start talking about it and put my foot in my mouth, but
yeah, I'm completely unable.
There's aspects of that are I don't know enough about, or maybe interpret wrong, but it's audits are everything. We've talked about this in a prior podcast, about back in the day, a contract was a shake of the hand, and you had a photo of the hole in the ground for the tower site, the concrete, the rebar, and then the tower stacked out. Now that same site's over 5,000 photos.
Oh, they get all the warranties and
yeah, exactly. It's just it's this industry has gotten too. There's been too much bullshit, I guess. It's you can't trust anybody anymore, and we've both seen it.
We've both seen it.
Exactly.
They're throwing a lot of money at these sites that we've never seen.
Like you see, not even like us, like outside people. I remember doing an anchor inspection for a tower owner, and they had everything marked out. I took photos of that before I even started digging, and I marked out where I was going to dig. And sure shit, I dug up the main fiber trunk for the site. And they're like, well, you're screwed. It's $10,000 an hour and all this other fucking shit. And, I called my insurance company. Like, oh, fuck. But I had those photos prior.
Right.
And they're like, wait a minute. So I marked it all out. Where I dug that thing up and where he marked the fiber optics at was over 10 feet away.
Yeah, not 3 feet or maybe even
no,
4,
no.
right?
You're supposed to give him like some type of a easement, and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I when I fucking saw that thing come out of the bucket, I was like, holy shit.
Man, I before fiber, we tore through one and building the tower site. And I went to the bar. I went to the bar and I had to find a guy. I had to find a telco guy. I paid that dude a case of beer, and he sat out in the road or out by the road, and he spliced 100 pair or whatever, 125, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Case of beer was gone. This dude was gone, and the telco was put back together. But I mean, I got pretty lucky there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I called 811 after I tore that up. And I'm like, hey, here's what I got going on. They like freaked out on me. Like, oh, you dug through that stuff. You're going to lose your contractor's license and all that stuff. I'm like, hold on here, Haas. You're not understanding me fully, But yeah, it was like 6-7 months till it was actually settled. But yeah, I was deemed not at fault for that. So I was happy with that.
What you can prove.
Exactly. Photos are everything. I tell people all the time, take a photo. Just take a goddamn photo.
You know what? You know what? Remember the speaking of that, remember the timestamp photo? We had that site up by Dubuque, and the carrier, the field tech tried saying we left the gate open. Remember, I was taking pictures of the gates because I didn't trust anybody anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a date and timestamp of that lock being locked.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, you can't trust anybody anymore.
Oh yeah, we've had multiple, landowners say, my cows got out, and then they had to shoot like 3 of them, apparently 3 of them got shot that day because we left the gate open, but we had photos of it prior. So yeah.
We had that other one where we got blamed for leaving the shelter unlocked, and turns out the
Yeah.
HVAC guy was in there overnight. Remember that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
He even signed the logbook.
Yeah.
So we weren't the last ones in there, but hey, we got off topic a little bit here, but that's all right. You know, we got to talk about some stuff, and that's
It's our
all we're,
podcast. We do what we want.
we do what we want. So yeah, I mean, don't forget, email towerhandhappyhour@gmail.com because we're cheap. Also, our shows air at Friday at 7 p.m. New episode Monday at 9 p.m. YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we'll be getting on Spotify and Apple Podcasts here soon. So
yep, just as soon as I got time.
yeah,
But
which
for
we
Chad
never have.
and Boone, this is episode 8, and don't forget, contact us, email us, and
Be safe, guys.